convene of the regular meeting of the Palm Desert City Council, successor agency to the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency and a Housing Authority for April 22nd, 2021. And Mayor Pro Tem Harnick, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Mayor, shall we do roll call?
Let's just say the pledge first and then we'll do roll call.
Okay. I invite everyone to please stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I always skip something, so it's great to get that out of the way. Hey, let's do the roll call.
And guess who would like to do her last roll call?
This will be my last roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes, thank you.
Councilman Jonathan,
Good job, Gracie. Present.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Here.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Present. And thank you for being a gift yourself.
Mayor Kelly.
Here, and
all present.
we'll be thinking of you next time when we're here without you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm fortunate to be invited to give our inspiration this evening. It is Earth Day, and many times it's easy to become discouraged about whether our individual actions can have an impact on something as big as the Earth. This morning, Sunlight Transit held a special board meeting via Facebook Live to share how the work of Sunlight Transit has impacted this Earth. And it began 30 years ago when what was a comparatively tiny transit organization made an agency value pledge to commit to alternative fuels with the goal of reaching zero emissions. That was at a time before the phrase zero emissions had really been coined or was a topic of conversation. And in the mid-90s, Sunlight Transit welcomed 40 new CNG buses, becoming the very first transit agency to convert to a full CNG fleet. Since then, we have become truly international leaders in hydrogen fuel cell technology and recently received grants toward establishing a fueling station here in Thousand Palms that could enable hydrogen fuel cell technology to power the trucks that we see on Interstate 10. The tiny little Coachella Valley had a huge impact and continues to have a huge impact because elected leaders like us tackled what was before them and approached their decisions in good conscience. I hope that that bit of history will truly inspire us to recommit ourselves to having a positive impact for the Earth and for all its inhabitants in the issues that come before us. Thank you. Do we have anything to report by way of action from closed session?
Yes, we do this afternoon. The City Council, with respect to item A1, which is the agreement with the Chandi Group, the council unanimously voted to instruct the city manager to go forward and finalize a development and disposition agreement for that development. On item A2, the council voted unanimously to authorize the amendment of the purchase sale agreement, extend it to October 27th, 2021. And on item number 3, the council acted also unanimously to extend that purchase and sale agreement to February of 2022. That is the end of the report.
Thank you. That brings us to awards and presentations. We want to acknowledge 3 milestones, and we'll build back up to honoring our very dedicated interim city clerk who was just with us. The first milestone we want to recognize through issuance of a certificate to Ryan Stendell. And is he with us? Did you cut your hair for Rancho Mirage?
I cut my hair for my wife, who was
Oh
tired
my
of
God.
it.
Ryan, we want to issue this certificate of appreciation for your work with Palm Desert over a span of nearly 20 years, touching just about every department in the city, and for your key leadership on transformative projects, such as the Aquatic Center, the revitalization of the San Pablo Corridor, the CV Link, our current general plan. We celebrate that you will remain a valued and engaged Palm Desert resident, and we presume a good regional collaborator as you pursue your professional development. So thank you. Good to see you.
See you guys too. Thank you much.
Be well.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Ryan. Looks good. We are recognizing 2 retiring employees. The first is Sharon Christensen, who, among other things in finance, has worked on payroll. So that makes her a very popular person. Todd, is there anything you wanted to share in connection with Sharon's retirement?
Well, first of all, I'll reiterate your popularity comment. That's absolutely true. Sharon she's dedicated 30 years of her life to public service, and she's been with the city of Palm Desert since 2005. She's very proud of the fact that she's interacted with every employee during her 16 years at the city, and she's always available to help employees and provides great customer service. So we really appreciate the work that Sharon does, and she brings the highest level of service to her colleagues. You're not going to find anyone say anything but very positive, respectful things with Sharon, and we're grateful for her service. Wish her the best.
Thank you, Todd. And is Sharon with us this evening? I had presumed not.
I thought she was. I may be wrong.
She's not on the list of
Yeah,
attendees.
she's not. Okay, she's not here today.
Well, we'll
Okay.
make sure she hears those remarks.
Absolutely.
And now back to our interim city manager, Grace Roca, who has stepped up in a time of paramount need amidst many, many changes and challenges. Grace, show us your face. Todd, please take the lead. Again, council members probably won't want to jump in here.
Yeah, Grace is, she's been with the city of Palm Desert since 2005 and has been in public service for over 38 years. She's been obviously a very important part of the city clerk's office, and most recently serving as the interim city clerk. She's very proud of the fact she successfully navigated an all mail-in ballot election and facilitated the city's move to multiple district voting as the acting city clerk. These are not easy things to take on when you're in that role. And she's done just a great job of helping hold things together during the transition. I've been very appreciative of everything that she's done for us and the history that she's provided me, and wish Grace nothing but the best as well.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah.
And any council members wish to add their best wishes? Gina?
I want to say, as my tenure as mayor this previous year, Grace, you were so patient with me. I would come in every week before our meeting to make sure I understood the agenda and the order of things. And Grace, you have been so patient with me, and I appreciate everything you've done for me that past year. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We all deeply, deeply appreciate that. Through devotion, you stepped up to steady the ship, because Rochelle's retirement was a big loss for all of us, and you've really kept things running very, very smoothly. You've tackled so many things that would be great additions to a resume, but for the fact that you don't want to apply for any more jobs, I bet. So thank you so much. And both Grace and Sharon have received a lovely gift of remembrance from the city of Palm Desert. Grace, did you want to have the last word?
I've just been blessed to work here at City Hall. It's a great city. It's been good to me and my family. It's been a good career. I've worked under great leadership. And I'm almost disappointed I won't be working under Todd, because I see he's awesome. Just in a very short time, he's moved the city clerk forward decades. And so the staff is in good hands. I'm going to miss the people, because I know all the hardworking people that work here, and I've made good friends, and I appreciate the council who has been supportive of me this past year. I appreciate the kind words and encouragement, and I'll keep praying for all the people in City Hall here, because I'll remember it. It's a part of my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Mayor, I believe that Mayor Pro Tem had some parting remarks.
Thank you, Councilmember Quintanilla. I just wanted to say that I met Gracie before I was on council, and she's always been kind and gracious, and I appreciate your guidance that you have provided me through the years. It's been so helpful. And on another note, your humor and smile and friendship has been a real gift. So thank you so much.
Thank you, all of you. Thanks.
Perfect.
Thank you, Gracie.
And I'm going to go before I cry.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent calendar?
I do, Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Quintanilla
I would like to remove item number 10, please.
and Councilmember Jonathan.
Yeah, I don't think I need it removed, but I want to register a no vote on item 11.
Gloria, did you get that?
Yes.
All right, any other removals? not, would someone like to move everything except 10?
Move the balance.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion. I believe, did I hear somebody else make a second or not?
It's all right.
Okay.
We don't need to fight over it. Lori, would you please take the vote?
I'm sorry. Would you, if you don't mind, would you mind repeating that again? I apologize. I heard 11.
Okay, there's no vote on 11. 10 has been removed. So Mayor Pro Tem Harnick moved the balance and Councilmember Nesante seconded that.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay, ready
So-
to vote?
Yes, we're voting on everything except 10 with Councilmember Jonathan registering a no vote for 11.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
and Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with the exception of item 10 and 4-0 on 11 with Councilmember Jonathan, no. Recusing him.
I thank you. I see Vanessa Maker has joined us for item number 10. And Councilmember Quintanilla, do you desire a staff report? Or are there specific questions you would like to raise?
The specific questions I would like to raise are in terms of whether it really is beneficial to continue this when I have been in constant contact with one of the owners of the businesses there, and he doesn't feel that it's a very adequate thing. And he's saying, you know, as long as it's just till April, it's just till April. And so that's been his patience point, that as long as April was the last one. So I have a concern with the fact that it seems that continuing this partnership may be to the benefit of only one, to the benefit of CV Harvest Box, when it's now going to be adding a beer garden. And we have vendors along San Pablo. We have a bar there. We have a liquor store. So if we're going to do something as innovative as start having a beer garden there, perhaps we could give first dibs to the businesses that are already on San Pablo.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I see Councilmember Jonathan. Oh, wait.
No, it's okay. If that was a question, then I would want to hear staff's answer. It sounded like an opinion, but Vanessa, you go first and I'll jump in there later.
All right, thank you. Yes, Councilmember Quintanilla, I have spoken with Mr. Shivari as well from the ABC Coin Laundry. I spoke with him earlier this week to hear his concerns. Him and I have been in constant contact for the last couple of months with regards to both markets on Wednesday and on Sunday, and have tried to work with him with regards to additional signage for event parking, so that there's none in the back, because that was his biggest concern. And in speaking to him, he again reiterated the same concerns that he has, the parking issues, which seem to be actually from the tenants nearby. As the first time we did a Sunday market, everybody kind of spread out as far as employees, and they didn't take up the prime parking, and he was very excited about that. And that worked out for him. Unfortunately, for the last two markets, employees have not done the same. So we're going to continue to support him in that matter. When I did speak with him, I did let him know about the May market, and he told me that he understood, and so that he would be waiting as well for a complete packaged evaluation of both markets on San Pablo, with information that we plan on receiving from business owners as well as customers and residents.
If I can ask support how with the parking, because what he told me, his concern was that he didn't feel that the situation with parking was causing potential strain with the other tenants, that he shouldn't have to go knock on anyone, say, please remind your employees to park elsewhere. And so that's the undue burden that is being placed on them. So how are we going to support beyond signage?
So I can reach out to the property owner. I know he spoke to me about Dorothy. So I can get her contact information from him to see what avenue she's been utilizing to reach out to the employees. And I have no problem stopping by and visiting again, and talking to the employees in each of those surrounding businesses, as there's only 6 on the street that are open on Sunday, but we can speak to each one of those just to ask them politely if they would be so kind as to leave prime parking for customers so that they can continue to have the business on the Sunday.
Councilmember Jonathan?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think the concern is well placed. Rarely do we have a special event or any event that doesn't impact someone. So it's incumbent on us to look at the greater good. I think that my concern also lays with the residents in that particular area that for the most part work and are not able to attend a farmer's market and take advantage of healthy food with a Wednesday morning market. So this accommodates their needs, and I think that their needs are really, really important. I'm confident that staff can work out the concerns of any single vendor. I think all the other vendors tremendously benefit from that special event, because most business owners will say, bring people to my storefront or within eyeshot of my storefront, and that is to my benefit. That's free advertising. It's then on me to sell them. And of course, they are more than welcome to participate in the market itself. And the ones I've spoken to have indicated that they have already seen benefit from the market on Sundays. It's frankly my hope that we go to every Sunday after this experiment and make this opportunity available to all the residents whose needs we need to accommodate. Thank you.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Yes, I also would like to know the proposed fees that are being waived. What is the amount that is proposed for waiving?
So the proposed fee that was proposed for waiving actually was originally waived back in January when we first brought this market to you. So it's actually $285 for an encroachment permit. So by extending the market 1 month, there's not an additional fee that needs to be waived. We kept that language in there just in case there was something else that came up. But at this point, there are no additional fees that would need to be waived to extend the market by 1 month.
Except for the additional expense to staff and everything that's going on. I just don't see that this needs to continue. And then I fear that it's going to come back next month for an extension for June with a different scenario. So I would like to know, when is the proposed final market? Is May the final Sunday market?
May is the final Sunday market. And then I know we've spoken that we do have proposals that will be submitted for a summer market by 1 or more vendors, but that is not anything that we have in our hands at this point. So there will be no summer market, so no market after May 25th or 29th, my apologies.
Thank you.
I have a question about the proposed permitting of alcoholic beverages. I'll just share my initial reaction is that if someone wants to enjoy a beer while they're at the farmer's market, I would much prefer that they frequent one of the restaurants in that immediate vicinity who also offer food at the same time. And the notion of a beer garden struck me somewhat abrasively as not quite in sync with the health objectives of offering a farmer's market, especially separate and apart from consumption of food. So could you speak to that?
Well, the organizer was looking to do just mimosas and Bloody Marys, which tend to be a morning brunch drink. And they are doing this only because they're wanting to expand the market. If it was not during COVID, this is something that would have come up at the first meeting, which we did mention in that first meeting back in January, that the organizer would eventually love to continue to grow this event and add additional things such as music, beer gardens, and other vendors once it was appropriate or once it was permitted by the state and county. And so that's why the organizer has come to us now to have that request.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
I echo the mayor's sentiments that it does not seem consistent with the promotion of a market that is going to advertise for health. And I have an additional concern with the fact that I'm not sure if the health and safety of everyone can be promised, because as you know, I was there the first Sunday and I was not impressed with seeing some of the vendors that were there on behalf of CV Harvest Box that were not wearing proper masks, and that is non-negotiable. That means that we are involved in putting people at risk. So I don't think that anything that could, how can we ensure that all of those precautions are being taken, and are there penalties for people that are going to skirt those requirements?
Councilmember, since the first market, I do know that CV Harvest Box went over and spoke to that vendor. I was at the second market as well, and they have masks as folks enter so that the consumers are provided with the mask if they forget to bring one, so that they are being worn. Same thing with their vendors. I was there when the organizer did let the same vendor that you had spoken about the first market, that if he did not comply, that he would have to leave the market and would not be permissible back on site to be a part of this. And so I plan on attending this Sunday market as well, just to ensure that there's extra eyes and hands on site to ensure that compliance is being held to Palm Desert standards.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Listen, I'm very grateful that someone of the quality of Tony Marchese and CV Harvest Box have undertaken this project. I think our city should do anything and everything possible to facilitate their success. He has visions of making it something much more grand than just a farmer's market. That can be a separate section, as has been done in Indian Wells and La Quinta. Other cities are seizing this opportunity. Consumers want it. It's what San Pablo was built for. It's walkable, it's bicyclable. If there are violations, heck, we deal with that. We do that with every special event. So I'm not worried about that. I think we need to facilitate the success of this innovative event, which meets the vision and the purpose of the downtown city core. And I'm grateful that staff has brought it this far, and I hope that we can take it much, much further. And with that, I move for approval.
Can I move instead to move without the beer garden?
Let's see if there's a second for his motion, and then you could move to amend by deleting the permission for alcoholic beverage. So is there a second for Councilmember Jonathan's motion?
I second his motion.
And just clarification, is it a beer garden, or is he asking for permission to simply serve mimosas and Bloody Marys? Because a beer garden involves craft beers and bringing in other vendors.
Mimosas and Bloody Marys, but when you talk to the ABC department, they just constitute everything as a beer garden. That's the name of it.
Okay.
All right. So, Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Discussion, since we have a motion and a second. First, I want to say thank you to Vanessa, because you have really stuck with this and done a lot of work on it, and seeing it through on the Sundays and correcting issues. I appreciate it. And I too have gone to that market, and what you see are a lot of people there, and it's a nice asset to that community. And I do believe it is what San Pablo was designed, is to bring people together, to create that family room for that area. And I think it's a great asset. As far as the beer garden / alcohol, whatever we're going to call it, let's give it a go. This is not a bad time. One time in May, and at this point, we may not be doing it in June. Let's see how it works. Let's give it a chance, and we can all come back and give it a yay or nay. Let's make sure we all show up to see how it works. But I think what I have seen of Wednesdays and of Sundays markets, they're tremendous assets for that, for San Pablo. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Quintanilla, if you want to move that amendment, you may. I would be inclined to second it, but it doesn't really look like anyone else shares our point of view.
With respect for everyone's time, I can do the math as well, and will not be making a separate motion.
All right. Any other comments before we take the vote? Gloria, please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Nay.
Mayor Kelly,
I'll say no as well because of the alcohol issue.
motion carries 3-2. With Mayor Kelly and Councilmember Quintanilla voting no.
And it looks like I skipped 2 things tonight instead of just 1. But not through lack of interest. We need to move back to see if there's any public comment on non-agenda items. Again, I underscore on non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for the public to speak on issues that are not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes. The Brown Act prevents us from taking up issues that you raise, although we might refer them to staff for exploration or a further report. That basically means we can't have a good conversation with you here, but we love to have good conversations with residents by any other means that works for you. So please contact City Hall to arrange a mutually convenient time. Ms. Sanchez will explain the process for raising your hand if you would like to speak.
Thank you. Thank you for participating in our remote virtual City Council meeting. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation. The agenda provided options and instructions for providing public comment at these meetings. Before we begin, please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell or desk phone. This will ensure that we are not hearing any feedback or causing interruption during the meeting. The mayor will invite public comment where appropriate on the agenda. For those on Zoom, if you would like to make a public comment on the Zoom screen, please click on the raise hand button, which is found by hitting the participants tab. If you are using Zoom on your smartphone, tap your screen, look for the more option, and then click on the raise hand button on the screen. For those calling in using the phone line, you can dial *9 on your keypad to signal that you would like to comment. When called upon by the city clerk, you will be allowed to speak. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and state your first and last name. Thank you.
And it looks like Mr. Kim Floyd has his hand up. Would you please elevate Mr. Floyd so we can hear what's on his mind?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and council members, and a special welcome to our new city manager. It's fantastic to have you in place, and thank you for being here. First, I wanted to commend Ryan Stendell for what I thought was just outstanding service. I met with him probably 6 times over the last 3 years. Just straightforward, honest, insightful responses. Really, really a pleasant experience. And Grace, the same. I never met with Grace, but we did it by email. Exceptional service, a smile in the words every time. And it was just really, really a pleasure. And I would say that I haven't met Sharon, and I'm not on the payroll, so I didn't have to find Sharon to get some payroll thing settled. But I'm sure Sharon fits in there as well as the other folks working at the city. Just an outstanding group of people, I believe, that we have working here. The second subject I want to talk about is not quite as pleasant. I must say that I am disappointed in our city's ability to address the issues of climate change and the environment. For the past 3 years, and I paint with a broad brush, and I realize I'm doing that, and I realize there's some things that you will disagree with me on. But other than the stunted effort with Desert Community Energy, there hasn't been a major initiative that I can think of in the city that started in the last 3 years. And it just seems to me, I've attended the city's priority setting meetings, no reference to climate change, no reference to the protecting the environment with any specific ideas. The most recent meeting in January or February, the city council members went around. The last person to speak was Mayor Kelly. The mayor said she would like the city to take a leadership role as an environmental leadership role in at least the Coachella Valley, maybe not the world. But she struggled with ideas on what might be done. That just flabbergasts me in terms of the many, many things that a city can do as it relates to climate change. And I would hope that going forward, we can do better than what I recently saw we were able to do. We changed the name.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Of the Sustainability Committee. That was the best we could do. I can't imagine. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Floyd. We're not done with our goal setting, so stay tuned. Frank Kelty has also asked to speak.
You hear me now, Madam Mayor?
Yes, we can.
Madam Mayor, members of the Palm Desert City Council, my name is Frank Kelty. I'm just about a 2-year resident of Palm Desert, and I love it here. The reason I'm calling today is I missed the town hall you had last week on the arena project. And I was a longtime public official in Alaska for over 20 years. And these are projects that I always supported because I believe it's a quality of life project. And I believe the revenue generated from this arena coming online for all the communities in the valley will be substantial. We're talking about sales tax revenues, bed tax revenues, support sector businesses in the restaurant, bars, shops, would all see increased by people coming into the community to go to events at the arena. And, you know, this is not a monster arena. We're talking up to 7,000, I think, people that are going to be in it. But it's got the capabilities to do trade shows. You could do smaller type versions that are going on in Vegas. You could do auto shows, home shows, things like that, along with sporting events. Indoor soccer team might want to come in here. You could have special basketball events. Maybe when the NBA is doing spring training, they would come to Palm Desert and have a game in the arena here. So I see a lot of positive events like this. And I'd like to leave you with one phrase that I've used before in other speeches in Alaska when I was a public official. And if you might remember the movie Field of Dreams, that was the baseball movie in the Kansas cornfield. Well, the phrase that I always liked in that was, if you build it, they will come. And I believe that's the key of my testimony. If we get that arena built, it will come. It'll be a benefit to the valley. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kelty, and welcome to Palm Desert. Does that conclude our public comment on non-agenda items?
Yes, I don't see any more raised hands.
Okay. Which I believe brings us to item 13. Am I on task, Gloria? I don't want to set a record by skipping 3 things.
You are on task.
Okay. Item 13 is request for approval of change order number 7 to contract number C38840D to Granite Construction Company for the construction of the CV Link project in the amount of $372,844.80 and authorize contract amendment number 1 to contract number C38840A to DHS Consulting LLC for construction management of the CV Link project in the amount of $190,191.04. Mr. Bowman.
Mayor, if I may interject, I need to recuse myself because of the proximity of my home. I am within limits to recuse myself, excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of City Council. We have before you tonight the actions in the staff report. We have the construction contract change order to account for changes needed at the trailhead that are necessitated by design changes due to grading differences between the construction plans and what are actually found on site. And then also included in that change order are some striping changes to the roadway to coordinate with the San Pablo Phase 2 project and other things. And then lastly, you have a contract amendment number 1 with the construction management contract to account for additional time that's going to be needed to make the changes to the trailhead. We need the construction manager on board to manage the construction through its completion. I would add lastly that the construction management costs and the construction costs are being 100% reimbursed to the city by CVAG. On board tonight, I don't see him here, but on board we should have Jonathan Hoy from CVAG, who is CVAG's transportation director, and we're here to answer your questions concerning this staff report, and then we have a follow-up staff report concerning status of the project.
Mr. Hoy is with us.
There he is.
So are there questions? Is there a discussion or a motion?
I have a question.
Yes.
And I know Mr. Gary had asked if we had any questions on the agenda, and I did send him my questions on this particular issue. And just one other point, and I don't know how it ties in, but the signage basically says bikeway and electric vehicle pathway. I was of the understanding this CV Link was also supposed to accommodate joggers and pedestrian walkers. And I was told that they have sidewalks. And we weren't sold on that. It was supposed to accommodate walkers and because I can tell you joggers like the asphalt because it's more forgiving on knees and backs and joints than the concrete sidewalk. And so I'm just bringing this issue up as well.
Council member, I helped provide that response to Mr. Gary. The facility is designed to accommodate bicyclists and golf carts. And I do understand your question about joggers. I see them a lot jogging in the street. There are sidewalks that parallel all the roadways that the path is being built along, which includes Parkview, Painter's Path, and Magnesia Falls. I would add that the section of the project that runs along Monterey is only a concrete surfaced, some might call it a shared use path. So it does take the form of a concrete sidewalk along Monterey Avenue. But that's the response that I provided to Mr. Gary.
Right. I'm just pointing out that the CV Link, though, is supposed to accommodate all 3 modalities. So we need to keep that in mind in any design changes we're looking at.
And it looks like Mayor Pro Tem Harnick wants to weigh in here.
Thank you, Councilmember Nastandi, for that comment, because it is supposed to be for, it's multimodal. It's supposed to be for walking and those who choose to run as well. And I'm wondering, because if we go over to the first segment that was built, it was built wider. So I would imagine that was made to accommodate all those things, since we are limited here. And I'm going out on a limb, I'm just guessing. We are limited in the width that we are able to build it. Is that why we have that area that is only for NEVs and for bicyclists, and that we have to use that extra little bit on the side for walkers and joggers? Because where it's wider, it does accommodate everyone. Is that it?
Yes, the facility is, if you think about it, it's being retrofitted into the existing roadway footprint. And so you are correct that there are limitations on how wide the facility can be without actually having to widen the road. And that was not part of the scope of the project. The sidewalks are set up so that the pedestrians can hit the push buttons at the traffic signals so that they can call up the pedestrian signals, they can safely cross the roadway. The path, the facility as it approaches the intersections has video detection that will detect the bicycles and the golf carts, much like vehicles, because both are treated as vehicles. And so they will be automatically detected, so they'll be able to safely cross through the intersection. So from my perspective, if a jogger chooses to jog in the facility, I don't think they would be prohibited from doing so. But the project, as I inherited it, certainly is oriented toward facilitating the movement of the golf carts and the bicycles. But to dovetail on my final point to Councilmember Nastandi, nothing that is being done with the project prohibits the use of the facility by joggers, and nothing related to the contract amendment or the contract change order does the same either.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. And I know that we're following up with a broader discussion, I think, about CV Link, and this item is really the trailhead at the bump and grind. But since the subject matter has been opened up, let me just add my 2 cents. I couldn't agree more with Councilmember Nastandi's concern. It was sold to us as multimodal. In fact, my understanding was that the only reason that 100 million funding was obtained was because of its unique character as multimodal, meaning accommodating walkers / joggers, cyclists, and neighborhood electric vehicles. And now what we get is something very, very different from that. I do not buy that there wasn't space to create a wide enough path, because if we look at Magnesia Falls and the other streets, I had asked early on, why don't we use part of that? In fact, why don't we keep the road as it is and use that? That sidewalk and the landscaping is massively wide. So there were plenty of options, and I hope there still are, because I'm not happy with what I'm seeing. And I have other design issues that I want to address. And Mayor, if that's more appropriate to have that discussion as we go to part 2 of this item, I'll hold those comments.
I'm not sure, quite frankly, what would be most helpful if they pertain to this particular item. Now would seem to be the time.
Well, it pertains because it's the CV Link path. So I'll say that I've driven the path a couple of times, and I'm just not impressed. The pictures that we were shown were so much more exciting and innovative. What I see is, those orange and white, those blue and white, whatever they are, they look like temporary construction things, and they're already chipping away. So before they're even complete, they're already looking nasty. I don't see anything beautiful or innovative or artistic the way the pictures that we were sold on presented, and frankly, the way some portions of the already built out CV Link have. So I don't know if we got the budget version, but I'm not happy with what I'm seeing, both in the functionality, which lacks an accommodation for all 3 types of users, and in the aesthetics. I'd like to see those concerns addressed because, and I don't want to hear that it's too late. I want to hear solutions, not excuses. I don't know if that's gonna, if CVAG itself will have an opportunity to respond to that, or we need to schedule a separate study session. I don't know how you want to proceed, but I'm almost tempted, and I thought I'd be the last person to say this, but to take a time out and take our time and get it right, because right now what I see is far from getting it right.
So what would staff suggest is the best process to follow?
I think given the depth of the comments that we're hearing, it probably does make some sense to take a time out and do a study session on this. I'd really like to understand if the design is that far off from what you approved. Have that conversation, with our representatives and Mr. Bowman, just so we can true everything up and talk about where the difference is here that you're seeing. So we're happy to set something up maybe on the May 13th meeting.
And while we're at it, Mr. Heilman, the other concern I have is we pushed hard for a bridge for crossing 111, Monterey, Portola, any and all of those. And we're told, no, there's issues and costs and so forth. And the next thing I open the Desert Sun and La Quinta's getting a bridge. I mean, come on. So we accepted on faith some of these explanations before. And now my faith is a little bit not where it was. So I'd like some explanations.
Randy, do you have anything you want to add? I mean, I'm happy to set up an hour or so to try to work through all these issues in May. And you have anything you want to add?
I would just add that there are things that the council members know about the project that occurred before my tenure at the city. The bridges, Councilmember Jonathan, is not something I'm familiar with. So I think there's a historical lesson that needs to be a part of the discussion, and we and the CVAG team will provide the materials needed for a discussion at a study session.
I wonder if it would be constructive to appoint a council subcommittee to assist staff in doing a bit of a deeper dive here. And both Councilmember Nastanti and Councilmember Jonathan have shown interest. Would the two of you be willing to be such a subcommittee?
Sure.
Gina? You're muted.
I'm on mute. There we go. Yes.
Great.
Mayor, I do think perhaps scheduling the study session for one of the meetings in May, though, still makes sense. And I know staff needs lead time to do that. So maybe we want to at least authorize that at this point.
Yeah, I would suggest we focus on that meeting on the 13th, primarily because we've saved the 27th for all things El Paseo. And I think that's going to be a long conversation given the agenda there. So that would be the suggestion, if unless you want to set up I'm trying not to do any other special meetings, but we could do a 2 o'clock meeting on the 13th. I think I can sit down with Randy based on the feedback that Councilmember Nastanti and Jonathan have shared with me. And your point about the original design versus what we're seeing today, I think we'll start there. And Councilmember Nastanti has also sent us a number of emails as well that I've asked staff to look at. So I think we can kind of try to figure out exactly where the disconnects are, get the subcommittee together, and be ready on the 13th for a better discussion if that suits the council.
And Mayor Pro Tem Arnick?
Thank you. Mr. Bowman, if you can help me out here, what we're looking at primarily on this item, however, isn't it the engineering and design of the trailhead? So wouldn't it be prudent to move forward with that, because that is a different issue than what Councilmember Nastanti and Councilmember Jonathan have both mentioned? And I think it would be in the best interest of moving what we can forward. Let's do that and that's the trailhead. That's at the bump and grind. And they have encountered issues that they had not expected. So I think it is in the best interest of the project to go ahead and move that design and engineering forward.
That was going to be my next question. So,
Oh, well, then I'll second it.
Second the question, is that the case, Mr. Bowman, that this approval pertains to things separate and apart from the issues that have been raised?
Yes, ma'am.
So sounds like Mayor Pro Tem Harnick has moved approval and I have seconded it. Any other discussion on this particular item before we vote? Gloria, would you please take the vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
She is
sorry.
recusing herself.
Yes. Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0 with Councilmember Quintanilla recusing herself.
And should we proceed to hear the informational update, would that still be fruitful at this juncture? Yes, the answer is yes. So here it comes.
Mayor, thank you very much. You have before you a staff report and also a memorandum that was issued today concerning the project. The schedule for the project with council's approval of the construction contract change order extends the construction completion date to approximately mid-July of this year and an additional 60 days beyond the original completion date. So that thank you very much for City Council for that action. Wanted to discuss with City Council the community feedback that the city is receiving, the city and CVAG are receiving concerning the project. There have been concerns expressed about the conspicuity of the curbs, how visible are they to the motoring public, as well as the comments we've heard similar to that from council just moments ago. The project is still very much in construction. The curbs were really the first item that was of note that was constructed for the linear portions of the project away from the trailhead. It's kind of like building a frame for a painting. And so now that the frame is almost done, almost all the curbs are done, it's time for the contractor to paint the rest of the picture for the project. And that painting includes a number of pavement markings, so stripes along the roadway, both along the motorist side of the curb, that's primarily done, and striping that runs inside the two-way facility. There's orange and blue striping that runs longitudinally along the length of the facility. And then there are zigzag type of CV Link branded markings that are called conflict striping that are meant to alert the users of the facility to the presence of driveways and intersections. And there's a lot of work that has to be done. There are very intricate patterns that have to be laid out. You probably have seen the contractor painting lines, chalking lines to paint by numbers out there, the rest of those improvements. In addition to the pavement markings, the contractor is also to install solar pathway lights that will run down the center of the facility. And also there's a skip dash center line stripe that will be painted, actually thermoplastic applied. It's a durable material down the middle of the facility. All of those items are intended to further highlight the presence of the curbs. But the concerns we're hearing from the community and from City Council include, well, after the construction is done, is that sufficient? So the city secured the services of a third-party independent engineering consultant and in collaboration with CVAG, conducted a review of the curbs and evaluated, are there additional possible things that could be done to increase the visibility of the curbs. In the memorandum that was provided today to City Council, there is the peer review analysis report. And the report essentially contains a toolbox of additional enhancements that could be done to highlight the presence of that curb, which is that line that separates the facility from the motoring public. And the examples of those additional tools they're all standard approaches that communities will use following the California Manual and Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And they can include tall pylons that are reflectorized that can go in the gaps between the curbs. Reflectorized pavement markers, we see those on our roadways. They help demarcate the presence of lines and lane lines. There are these devices that are named after animals like turtles or armadillos. They are like a raised marker that are very large. We've seen these used in other communities to help further demarcate the location of bike lanes and bikeway facilities. So we have a series of tools that are standard type of tools that are recommended by the independent evaluator. We have discussed those with CVAG. We've presented them also to the project design team who was hired by CVAG. And we are proposing that we pilot several of these measures, these tools, pilot them along different locations along the project and look to see how they look in the real world. I mean, we have renderings that we've attached to the memorandum, but let's see them in the real world and evaluate their effectiveness. And so we would recommend that we proceed with a pilot, try these tools, and keep the conversation going with the City Council. I would also add that in addition to the peer review, the city and CVAG have done additional measures. There is an enhanced communication that is being drafted by CVAG, taking the form of frequently asked questions. It's a communications piece, a deliverable that can be shared by social media, placed on websites, distributed to the community, that answers some of the questions that we're hearing from the community as this project is being constructed. I'll also add that the city has had the contractor erect temporary work zone speed reductions on Magnesia Falls between Portola and Monterey, reducing the speed from 45 to 30. And we'll keep that temporary work zone reduction in place until the city follows up with an engineering and traffic survey on Mag Falls, on Parkview, to see if we can lower the speed limits after the project is done, as we have reported previously on topics related to this project. And we would conduct that speed survey after traffic is calmed down, adjusted. That's what you typically do with an ENTS. We would conduct that toward the end of the summer and provide the recommendations to City Council shortly thereafter. Lastly, we have had the contractor install additional temporary traffic control devices, the orange cones or orange delineator posts, just to help highlight the presence of the curbs, since the project is still very much incomplete and in construction. Happy to answer questions. Mr. Hoy and I are present, as well as we have brought along our construction manager in case there is a construction question that I might need to forward on to Mr. Atwood.
Any additional questions? If not, we have received and filed the update report with our prior vote, and so I thank you. And thank you for those efforts. Which brings us to item 14, request for award of contract to Best Contracting Services, contract number HA 40980 for Taos, Palms, and Desert Point roof rehabilitation. Is there a staff report?
Ms. Gonzalez and I are present to answer questions that the authority board may have on this staff report. We're recommending the award of our second big roofing project for PDHA for Desert Point and Taos Palms, with a small set aside for contingency in case something is found as you tear off the roof. Much like we find in our homes when we re-roof our homes. Sometimes you have to replace plywood or something. So we have this before you with a recommendation. Happy to answer your questions.
Yes, Councilmember Quintanilla.
I have a question, Mr. Bowman. Is there any indication if there is, if the contractor has a preference on which one will be started first? I have heard from residents at Desert Point, and Mr. English is advocating on behalf of his neighbors and saying that the low clearance between the ceiling and the second floor, that it makes it very, very hot. And so if knowing that it's coming closer to summer, those that live on the second floor would have a substantial impact. And if possible, we can have that addressed first at Desert Point.
The next step following award of the contract, council member, will be for the contractor to begin their submittals, assemble their construction schedule. I believe a response was provided prior to the meeting from Ms. Gonzalez. That is a typical procedure. The project was not set up with any instructions to the contractor saying, build this unit first or that unit second. So we'll take the input, the concern, we'll inform the contractor of that. If there is an opportunity that doesn't materially change the contractor's approach, I would hope that that can happen. But really, it is up to the contractor to propose the schedule and phasing of the work.
Absolutely. Just advocating on what our residents are asking for. And I think that there would be a potential health concern. So just passing that along. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
So
Make a
moved.
motion to approve. I'll second.
Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nistandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item number 15 is request for award of contract to Doken Engineering in the amount of $198,035 for the Bridge Maintenance Program, project number 759-21. May we have the staff report?
Yeah, before your recommendation to award a consultant contract to provide a holistic program approach to the city's bridge infrastructure, which is our most critical part of our transportation infrastructure. Nobody wants a bridge to fall down. The city regularly gets inspection reports from Caltrans on most of the bridges in the city, but not all. And so this effort is meant to bring us up to date on the condition of all of our structures. It is meant to give us a long-range view of what we should be doing year after year to maintain our bridges in proper working order. And I would add that by doing this project, we're actually accruing the equivalent to airline miles with the state for potential future bridge funding. Any dollars that we spend on this effort, we can bank against requests for big dollar requests for big bridge replacement projects at some point in the future, which is always an opportunity to leverage. You should take it. So you have before you the staff report, and happy to answer any questions.
I see no hands. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Yeah. Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nistandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And one more for Mr. Bowman before we give you a little bit of a break here. Item 16, request for award of contract to Albert A. Webb Associates for the design of bike lane striping improvements in the amount of $150,000 even. Project number 566-21.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The staff report will award the contract to Albert A. Webb and Associates. This is like a task order driven on-call kind of a contract to have a consultant, a qualified consultant on hand to design the refreshment of bike lanes or the improvement of bike lanes, such as contemporizing their design when the city resurfaces or slurry seals a roadway. So if that activity blackens the roadway surface, gives us a new blank canvas, and having a consultant at the ready to provide the necessary striping details or additions or changes to loop detectors at traffic signals when we carve out for a bike lane. We'll have them at the ready so that we can quickly pop out the plans for construction and continue with our slurry and resurfacing programs on schedule.
Great. Any questions? May we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And
Second.
please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
And we'll move to item 17, request for award of contract to L. Bomber Electric, Inc. for on-call electrical services at park and landscape facilities in the annual amount of $125,000, project number 92821. Welcome, Mr. Chavez.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Randy Chavez. I'm the landscape supervisor for those of you who haven't seen me before. You have the staff report and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Chavez, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, Councilmember.
Good. I have a question for you, and I may be misunderstanding something, but if I did the math correctly, we're looking at spending $125,000 based on an hourly rate of $105 per hour. Which translates into essentially we're buying 1,190 hours for $125,000. And I'm wondering why, if my understanding is correct, why wouldn't we just hire somebody full-time, get twice that at 2,080 hours and probably cost far less than $125,000?
Well, that's a good question. And I know that historically we've been contracting out all our services. But that's a question that certainly I could bring up to Assistant City Manager and even our new City Manager for discussion.
Yeah, and I understand the history of being a contract city, and it often, not always, but often makes sense, because if you need specialty services, specialized expertise, if you only need 300 hours, why hire somebody for 2,000 hours? I get that. But this situation, to me, seems to not fit that mold. And I don't know if we need to move quickly, but if not, unless there's an immediate answer, maybe we can look at that question and bring this back at the next meeting.
Yeah, this is for our next fiscal year. So we do have a little bit of time to research if that's what the direction that's given. We'd be more happy to do that.
And I'm not opposed to what's being proposed. I just want to understand that it is, in fact, our best option. And if we're not able to answer my question now, then I would ask my colleagues to allow staff an opportunity to answer and come back maybe at the next meeting with this item.
I sensed Mr. Eilman had something to share.
Mr. Heilman's happy to take a look at it. I think the challenge is if it depends how much work Randy's actually able to put together for that person. Given the salaries, roll-up benefits, those sorts of things, it's going to cost us far more than $125,000 a year unless he needs somebody leveraged full-time and he's just buying partial time. So I don't think we could touch that given the pension and health insurance benefits, what I'm calling roll-ups. But I need to defer to Randy in terms of how much time he really needs. This is sort of a pay-as-you-go contract for about 1,000 hours, which would be roughly half of a full-time person. So I'd really need to defer to his expertise in terms of how leveraged that person would be, because it's highly unlikely when you're competing in this particular area, you're going to find an employee that's going to cost you. You're not going to find an employee all in that's going to cost you anywhere close to this. It's going to be much more than this.
Yeah, and this is a not to exceed amount, so it's we may not spend this whole amount for the next fiscal year. This is just combining all of our budgets, for our parks and medians and assessment districts, so we could get a better price. But historically, there's been years where we've had some vandalism, which requires a little bit more work. Other years have been a little slower. So it's really hard to gauge the amount of work each year, what it will entail. But this is a good number that will get us through the fiscal year. We don't anticipate spending this much money, but this will ensure that the contractor is able to have a little bit of inventory, purchase newer equipment to be able to service our account more efficiently.
Tell you what, I'm okay with that, but this question won't go away. So I would encourage staff, whenever we look at a outside contract of this magnitude, to evaluate the proposed contract against hiring an employee. And maybe there isn't 1,000 hours of electrical work to do, but maybe you can hire an employee even if it costs 150 or 175,000, which is beyond my understanding, but let's say it does. If you're getting 2,000 hours and you're able to fill his schedule with other work, then it's still cheaper for the city. And that's the kind of thing that a successful, competitive private business does before they hire out a contract for 125,000. I would hope that our city is equally cost conscious and profit conscious, and I believe, and I know that it is. So I'll let it go, if you will, on trust that this is cost effective. But I would encourage staff to go through this type of evaluation in the future.
Absolutely.
I'll ask Andy and Randy to work on this over the next few months, and we can project out a budget. Having had this position before, the setup costs, the ongoing costs, the insurance costs, and I'm talking about liability insurance costs, those sorts of things. It changes the calculation here. So if there's more work that can be added to leverage this, I think you might have a point. But we're happy to take a look at it.
Yeah, but I don't want to hold it up. I mean, if it sounds like you guys want to move forward, I would just say my comment is kind of broader. We've talked about this in the permitting department, where having an outside contractor do permitting is perhaps not only not cost effective, but also counterproductive to our customers, because the more time the outside contractor spends, the more he gets paid. And they always seem to find a reason to spend a lot of time when frankly it shouldn't. Going back and forth. So my comment is perhaps general, that as we enter into outside contracts, being a contract city, that we always evaluate that against the metric of, does it make more sense to hire somebody instead of go outside?
And we're on board with that. In fact, you're going to see in a memo that's coming out tomorrow, adding back a couple project managers to the Public Works Department for exactly the reasons you're articulating. Is I'd much rather save the dollars on the professional services that we can prove and put those to work in the streets, in the infrastructure, than in the contractor's hands. So we're trying to do that analysis. It's just a lot of areas to continue building that muscle memory.
Thank you.
And I'll just underscore these two perspectives as those decisions are made. We've had discussions in the past about the importance of prioritizing city hires where a service focus is particularly key, because we want people who can be trained to reflect appropriate values around the resident service. That would militate in favor of hiring people who are involved in the permitting process, but not so much changing light bulbs and electrical repairs. The other issue that I would feature in cases like this is the tremendous challenge right now of hiring people in the trained trades. We hear from people in development that there's a real shortage of people in the trained trade. So in that circumstance, we might not be well served trying to hire. But all that can be put aside for another day. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second from Councilmember Jonathan.
Sure, yeah, second.
Okay, please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Item 18, and it's this the item of, yes, that
I
Mayor
will need,
Pro Tem-
yes, I will need to recuse myself due to financial conflict.
Item 19 is request for award of contract to Gimli Horn and Associates for traffic operations and capacity improvements in the amount of $488,229.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Much like the bridge contract that you just awarded, this project will also provide the long view for programmatic-based decisions for improving the capacity at intersections throughout the city. The program is set up for the top 50 of the city's signalized intersections to be evaluated, ranked, prioritized. We will count cars and actually multimodal counts at intersections as a first activity. And we're going to capture that data while we still have some semblance of a peak season. That will be evaluated, included in the consultants' activities, which they will conclude by the end of this calendar year, with the intention that their report and recommendations will inform the city's capital improvement budget decisions for next year and the following many years. So happy to answer any questions should council have them.
I see no hands. Oh, is that a hand? Yes, Councilmember Jonathan.
And more of a comment, just to say I'm proud of our staff and proud of our city for all the preventative work that we do, the maintenance work that we do. I wish our state did anywhere close to that kind of work on roads, bridges, traffic lights, and other infrastructure. It is part, maybe it's not the sexiest part of our city and is often overlooked, but it is very much a part of what makes our city so special. So good job, staff, much appreciated, and I would move for approval.
And I would love to second not just the motion, but the comment.
Got it.
Any other comments before the vote? Please take the vote.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0 with recusal by Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
And she is back. For item 19, request for award of contract to Horizon Professional Landscape Inc. for landscape maintenance area number 7 in the annual amount of $106,920 and include repair work and services for the annual amount of $25,000, project number 907-22. Mr. Chavez.
Hello again. This staff report is for the maintenance of our LMA 7, which is our assessment districts and the President's Plazas. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Looks like there are no questions, comments, discussion, or motion. Welcome.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item number 20, resolution number SARDA 084, a resolution of the Board of the Successor Agency to the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency, authorizing First Amendment to the purchase option and sale agreement by and between the Successor Agency to the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency and Desert Wave Ventures LLC for Lot Pad B within the Desert Willow Recreation Area, 14.65 acres, APN 620-420-023, pursuant to the Long Range Property Management Plan and taking related actions. Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Is everybody able to hear me?
Yes.
Great. Early in tonight's meeting, the city attorney reported out from closed session that the SARDA board approved the First Amendment extension to the purchase sale option agreement with the developers of Desert Surf for Lot Pad B. In order for staff to prepare this First Amendment for review and approval by the Riverside County Oversight Board, a resolution must be passed by the local SARDA board. Therefore, staff is requesting the board adopt this resolution and authorize staff to present the amendment at the May 2021 Oversight Board meeting. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them. Thanks.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve. I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
And item 21 is a request for direction on official city response regarding event requests for the remainder of 2021. Welcome back, Ms. Maker.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Before you is a staff report requesting direction regarding the city's response to future event requests. Currently, the city has an event moratorium that is set to expire on June 30th of 2021. This moratorium was put into place on July 9th, 2020 and extended on November 19th of 2020 as events and large gatherings were not permitted by the county and or state at the time. Things have changed in the last few months and most recently in the last few days. On April 2nd of 2021, the state of California updated the blueprint for a safer economy, which provided guidance on permitted activities, including gatherings, outdoor live shows, and youth and adult recreation sports. Then on April 6, 2021, Governor Newsom announced a plan to reopen the state of California on June 15th of 2021 with minimum restrictions. Since restrictions are lifting and Riverside County is progressing through the state's tier levels, the City Aquatic Center and Desert Recreation District are starting to receive requests from event organizers and individual residents wanting to host or plan events now and into the remainder of 2021. While guidance has been given for the state for smaller outdoor gatherings, larger events such as runs, festivals, and parades do not currently have any direction from the state or county. However, staff has confirmed with county officials that guidelines concerning large gatherings are forthcoming. Staff recognizes that these large events require months of planning and would like to assist organizers with facilitation of such events. This would be done with the understanding that all guidelines in place at the time of the event must be followed, and that an event may be canceled if the county were to regress in the tier system or if the state were to implement another stay-at-home order. With that said, staff is requesting direction from council regarding the city's official response regarding event requests. Specific areas of feedback include whether or not to allow reservations now for park events that comply with the county and state guidance. 2, whether or not to allow reservations for future events such as runs, festivals, and parades that are currently prohibited, but seem like they will be acceptable by the state's planned reopening date of June 15th. And lastly, as direction has been given by the state regarding permitted activities, including gatherings and outdoor live shows with assigned seats and controlled mixing and youth and adult recreation sports, council comfortable with staff moving forward starting April 23rd with events that meet the state criteria. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, we do have someone requesting to make comment on this item, but questions are appropriate before that. Let's just be sure to limit ourselves to questions, not discussion, until we get that public comment. So are there any questions of staff?
I have one quick question, Mayor.
Yes.
My question is, what are the first coming events? Are there any things that were maybe postponed that are already hypothetical events we were hoping?
Yes, there are some that are from planning for the fall. One would be our USA Women's Marathon and Half Marathon, who would like to reserve the date for the park currently. Also, I believe you have Southland Events, who is on the line waiting to speak. Their event would actually be next year in 2022, but obviously they need to start planning now. Then we also have a couple of other things that typically come up, the golf cart parade in the city of Palm Desert, which is again wanting to start the planning process, but don't want to plan if they anticipate any huge no's at this point in time. And there are, like I said, lots of smaller gatherings, Councilmember Quintanilla, that are wanting to request reservation of the pavilions. And currently, because of the event moratorium, Desert Recreation District is not handling any of those at the moment.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we take that comment? Looks like we are ready for the comment. Ms. Sanchez, would you please enable that?
You have 3 minutes, Mr. Sills.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt, and I am the owner of Southland Events. My company has been producing the Palm Desert Half Marathon and 5K since 2016. This iconic event is one of the oldest races in the Coachella Valley, with its history going back more than 20 years when it started as the Palm Springs Half Marathon. Since our first Palm Desert race back in 2016, we have grown to over 1,200 participants, half of whom come from outside the Palm Desert area to participate. This means hotel rooms booked and local restaurants and shops being patronized. We also have a charity component to our race as well, and make sure that charity has its roots in the Coachella Valley, including past partnerships with Martha's Village and the YMCA of the desert. We also use 5 to 15 local high school and civic groups as volunteers, and we make donations to their organizations as well. The 2020 Palm Desert Half Marathon was one of the only events to take place last year because of the pandemic. My company was able to put on one other race, Desert Triathlon in La Quinta, before the shutdown. Since then, we have not only not been able to put on any races, but we have received no direction from state and local entities on how and when events would be able to come back. I have watched restaurants reopen for indoor dining and fans returning to sports at indoor events or venues, but there is still nothing about outdoor recreational events. Vaccination rates are increasing while cases are decreasing. At this point, it seems that having no event guidance from the state is less about public safety than it is about risk mitigation. It is time for this to change, and I'm hoping that you, the Palm Desert City Council, will start that change, moving forward with events as other cities and counties have already done. By allowing us to reserve a date, we can begin to advertise our race and get people excited to visit Palm Desert. It will also allow us to compete with events in other Southern California locations that are rescheduling their postponed events around our February date. While we hope that by February, the situation will allow us to put on events as we have in the past, we have created COVID-19 mitigation protocols that can be easily implemented if necessary, and I'm happy to share those protocols with the members of the council if they'd like to see them. I urge the council to begin taking requests and reservations for events so that my company and countless other event producers can get back to work as most other businesses have, so that people can go back to some semblance of normalcy that attending an event in the outdoors gives a person, and so people can return to enjoying the beauty that is Palm Desert. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sills. We're ready for discussion. Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate Mr. Sills' comments, and they resonate with me. I think it's time to open up. and help our residents restore their mental, emotional, and physical health. But to do it safely, of course. And in staff's report, each one of the bullet points that we heard from Ms. Mager, like reservations for park events, that comply with county and state guidelines, certain events and activities that comply with current state criteria, future events that are currently prohibited, such are runs, in anticipation of forthcoming guidance from county officials in the state. So I don't think we have to choose health protocols over opening up our city to these special events. I think we can have both. And I think it's important that we have both. So the guidance that I would offer is, let's do it.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, the short is, I agree. And the staff report is written so that it says right in there, you know, if there is an issue, an event may be canceled if the county were to regress in the tier system. So there's precautions written in here. And as long as everything continues moving in the right direction and everybody moves forward in an abundance of caution, there should be no issue. If something happens, those people who we are now giving the green light to will have to understand that we may have to do a 180 on that. So I support going forward and opening up with care.
Councilmember Quintanilla and then Councilmember Nestande.
I am in full support of giving people something to look forward to again. This is what we've been waiting for. This is why we have sacrificed, and this is another opportunity to remind people that we have to keep getting tested and get vaccinated. So this will be another opportunity to drive those up, as I'm sure participating in some of these events may require you to be vaccinated. And so I see no downside. I think it's what we've been buckling for. This is the coming together, and now we're seeing the finish line. So I just want to thank staff for all of the patience that you've had in knowing the timeline has been moving further and further. And thank you for fielding those questions. And it looks like things are looking up. So we'll stay optimistic that we won't regress, but it's the additional reminder that as we want to keep enjoying these things, there's still work to do to keep it.
Councilmember Nestande.
Well, I think my fellow council members have said it all. Yes, I am very supportive of it. And thank goodness that, you know, Vanessa, thank you for doing such a great job. I mean, you've covered all the bases in terms of moving forward, full disclosure, right? Every event knows what the parameters are. And I don't see any downside. And hopefully we'll have some wonderful events this upcoming summer and in the fall. So looks like we're all in agreement. Thank you.
Yes, I concur. The key, of course, is making sure that our partners who may be scheduling these events do assure compliance with prevailing county or state protocols. And my message to the public is, yes, we're all buoyed and hopeful. Let's not ruin it. Please continue to mask up in public, wear those masks correctly. Don't start celebrating at the 22nd mile of the marathon. We're not quite there yet. And we've seen the results in some other states who've been a bit too reckless too quickly. So with that, Ms. Mager, do you feel you've received sufficient guidance?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all.
Terrific. Thank you for bringing us a good report. And that brings us to item 22, resolution number 2021-09, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Desert, California, authorizing the city to enter into the National Wildlife Federation Mayor's Monarch Pledge. What a happy topic. Ms. Nelson is here to answer any questions.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I'm having technical difficulties with my internet this evening. This is Jennifer Nelson, Management Analyst from your Development Services Department. Yes, happy Earth Day to everyone. And to coincide with that, the item before you is asking the mayor to make a pledge to help bring back the monarch butterfly population to the Coachella Valley. This project looks like a really fun one. It is a collaborative effort between city departments and the Living Desert. The details are in the staff report, but if you have any questions, I do have city staff here and also the team from the Living Desert available to answer any of them.
Super. And I want to thank staff for coming up with some excellent ways of participating in this program. Are there questions? Yes, Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. So your report indicates that the fiscal impact is not yet known with regards to the mural project. Do you have any updated information on that for us?
So thank you, Councilmember Jonathan. I do have Deborah Glickman here with us from our Arts and Public Places. She might be able to share some information. Deborah?
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I am still working to secure that, but I estimate that it will be under $3,000 for the mural.
And do you have a proposed location and how long would it stay up?
The mural I would stay up at least a year, I believe. This is something that I'm coming into partway through the process, so I'm still picking up a few of the details, but I believe it would be up for a minimum of about a year. There is a proposal, and actually that proposal has the possibility to be a removable mural and move to somewhere else. So we may be able to move the butterflies from one location to another. But I'm still working with the artist, the same artist who did the logo just to my right, left, depending on which way you're looking at me. It's part of the Unite Palm Desert campaign, has been engaged to create a proposal for this. Actually, the butterfly proposal came before the Living Desert came to the city. So it's as if the public art program knew it was coming.
Is there a proposed location?
Right now, we are talking with UCR Palm Desert. And they have to review that through all of their committees and on different levels. So the conversation has started and they've done an initial review, but need more information. So I'm working to finalize that updated proposal with the artists.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Quintanilla.
My question in support of the pollinators, I believe that in having read through some of the actions are to look at what else we can do. In looking at the landscaping that the city is currently beautifies with, how much of that includes milkweed? You know, I know that it's very drought tolerant and we want to increase the opportunities. So just as for curiosity, I would love to hear back from staff. It doesn't have to be now, just out of curiosity, how much of that is actually specifically pollinator friendly, and if that's something that we could look ahead and maybe make some small tweaks that could have long-standing environmental impacts. I think it would be worthwhile.
That's an excellent question.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You just, excuse me.
Councilmember Quintanilla, we do use milkweed quite a bit in all of our landscape. It is a very hardy plant. However, it's not very prolific and flowery and showy, so we supplement it with other plant material. So it may get lost amongst other plants, but what we're proposing for our garden here in the Civic Center Park is utilizing milkweed as a base plant, but also supplementing it with other pollinator and colorful plant material as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
A motion to approve.
Excuse me. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick just raised her hand.
I didn't have a question. I had some comments. So is that appropriate right now?
Of course. Let's just see if there's a second to the motion and then
I'll second it then.
great.
I love this. I think it's wonderful. You could put the mural on the wall at my house. I think this is outstanding. And I love when we do things like this and support the community, support the environment, and make our community better in so doing. So great.
Thank you.
Are we ready for the vote?
I have a comment, Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Jonathan.
So let me take a slightly contrarian view. I apologize for that because everybody loves butterflies and so do I. And I take every opportunity to go to the Living Desert Butterfly exhibit when they have it. Having said that, I don't see a real direct tie between butterflies and the desert. And I understand that this is part of their feeding ground or whatever, but I think most people would look at a mural of a butterfly and say, what? So I'm in favor of, and I understand I may be in a minority here, but I would be in favor of the proclamation and the pollinator-friendly demonstration garden in the Civic Center, but I would not be in favor of the mural. That's just me.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Thank you. Well, not only does the Living Desert have the exit when they bring in the butterflies, but they always have a butterfly garden there because we do have so many butterflies here. And they maintain that year round because we do attract butterflies. It's we are part of what keeps them going. And I think beautiful art's beautiful art. And if you think about so many of our utility boxes, we have great art with flowers and all sorts of different types of nature. And I think it's great.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
I'd like to add that part of the discussion that came up in the Art and Public Places Commission, and Alex, if you'd like to chime in, I know we'd had some of a discussion about the possibility of making it interactive where it wouldn't just be a mural, that there would be the opportunity potentially for there to be a QR code where people could scan it and learn facts and maybe tie into other things. So this could have a social media component, this could have a lot of marketing components. People love being able to take photos in iconic places. So this has a lot of education implications. So it's beyond that. And if maybe not a butterfly, would perhaps Councilmember Jonathan be in favor of a bee or a wasp or other pollinators that are more strike his fancy a little more, but we've got lots of opportunities to highlight pollinators.
You know what? We actually allow aviaries in our city and promote beekeeping. So yeah, I'd love to see a bee. I'll tell you what, Councilmember Quintanilla, if we can incorporate an education element, because my concern is that, and we now know more about butterflies than most of our residents, right? And so if you stop, 100 residents say, does a butterfly have a tie to the desert? They say, no, what are you talking about? And that was my concern, like, what's that doing there? But if it has an education element, then it makes sense to me. And maybe with that kind of understanding or condition, I could get behind that, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I'm taking from Ms. Glickman's nod that that's very much within the plans. So let's take the vote on that premise.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi.
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And we will take a 10-minute comfort break before tackling the public hearing, which has several steps. So we'll be back in 10. All right. Are we missing anyone? No one who's missing spoke up, so I'll assume not. We are ready for our final item, number 23, consideration of actions relating to the formation of Community Facilities District number 2021-1 University Park. It is now in order for me to open the public hearing on the establishment of the City of Palm Desert Community Facilities District number 2021-1 University Park, the extent of the district, the furnishing of specified types of public facilities to serve the district, the proposed rate and method of apportionment of the special tax, and the proposed incurrence of bonded debt in an amount not to exceed $50 million for the district. Does the city clerk wish to report on notice of this hearing?
Yes, as required by the Mello-Roos Communities Facilities Act and by prior resolution of this city council, notice of this hearing was published once in the Desert Sun on March 25th, 2021, and notice was mailed to the landowners within the district on March 31st, 2021.
Thank you. The public hearing is now officially opened. We will first have presentations by staff and consultants about the district. After that, we will receive testimony from any interested persons or taxpayers. And when all comments have been received, the public hearing will be closed. So I believe, Ms. Tapia, we are ready for your presentation.
Mayor. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Veronica Tapia, your Senior Management Analyst in the Finance Department. The City's Special Tax Consultant, Wildan Financial Services, has filed a CFD report prior to this meeting and should have been included in your packet. It looks like this. As previously directed by the City Council and required under the Mello-Roos Act, Mike Medvey from Wildan is here to provide a brief overview of that report. Mike?
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. So the CFD report is a required attachment to the resolution of formation, which is one of the resolutions that is up for tonight. It essentially contains a summary of everything that we've done so far in putting together the CFD, and contains all the necessary information to understand what the CFD is for, why it's being formed, and which properties it affects. Just to kind of briefly describe the parts of it, there is a description and also a restating of the boundaries. There's a description of the eligible facilities that we've authorized with the resolution of intention. And there's also some some cost estimates, as many as we have right now. Not all of the information is available, but as much information as we have on what will be spent on which facilities. And in this case, also redeeming some of the bonds from the prior CFD. When you look at the boundary section, which is both section 2, which is more of a legal description, and then Exhibit A, which is the boundary map, you'll see that this CFD is a cutout of CFD number 2005-1. The developer called UPI has a residential project that has been slow to get off the ground and differs a bit from the originally conceived one back in the mid 2000s. So they are creating a new CFD that fits better with their plans for development, and the majority of the proceeds are going to be used to redeem bonds from that earlier CFD. There is a small amount left over that they will put towards fees and facilities as well. You can see in section 3 of the report a description of the facilities, and this matches the description in the resolution of intent that was passed about a month ago. You'll see that the main feature of the facilities is to redeem bonds that have already been used to finance facilities, the 2005-1 bonds. And then you'll see that in addition to that, they will be financing fees both for Palm Desert and also for the Coachella Valley Water District. There's also the ability to finance additional facilities. Cost estimates is section 4. It gives the amount of the bonds that are going to be redeemed, which is 17.13 million. We're also required to provide an estimate of the soft costs, of formation and issuance associated with the CFD, 1.04 million. And then we're also providing the annual administration costs, $75,000, which matches what we budgeted for 2005-1 when it was formed. Exhibit B elaborates a bit more on several things that the developer could spend the remaining proceeds on, but just a note that this list is more extensive than the amount that they're going to have left over to spend. So this is more of a wish list than a specific list of facilities that we plan to fund. That will probably be figured out later, depending on how far along they are when bonds are issued and how quickly they can get their facilities approved. The next section is the rate and method of apportionment of special tax. We've developed this a few months ago, and it was originally introduced to the council in the resolution of intent. We put it here as Exhibit C, again, because this document is meant to be kind of a long-standing collection of all the important documents involved in the CFD. It'll serve kind of as just a report where you can find anything you really need to know about it. But yes, this was attached to the intent resolution from a couple months ago. And I can go on to answer any questions or describe the basics of the RMA. When I say RMA, I mean rate and method of apportionment, if you wish. But I assume
availability for questions would be appropriate since we do have everything in writing.
Great. I am available.
Are there questions? I see none. Ms. Tapia, do you have anything further in your report?
I'll provide a brief report also, if you don't mind. I'll try to get through it quickly. As Mike mentioned, there are the two resolutions tonight. They're considering one for formation and the levy of special taxes, and the others to incur the debt, so for the financing. The special taxes will be pledged and used to pay the debt service of the CFD bonds. Per Will Dan's report and tonight's resolution, proceeds from the CFD bonds will be used to finance the various costs or construction and acquisition costs that he mentioned for public facilities. They will pay and extinguish also the 2005-1 CFD bonds that are allocable to the property in the new CFD. The CFD restructure allows new money for public facilities to be raised for UPI's development without adversely affecting the tax burden on the other properties in the old CFD. With the inclusion of the new money issue, the anticipated 15% savings, the NPV savings that we had initially thought we would get, for a straight refunding is no longer achievable. For those properties benefiting from the new money, we will see a lower NPV, but it's still well in excess of our 3% threshold that we use to see if it's a true benefit to the district. And it's going to allow them to do the improvements that they need to complete the project. Approval of the resolutions tonight meet the requirements of the Mello-Roos Act and continue the process of formation and the issuance of bonds. Typically, this process would be consolidated into 2 or 3 meetings. However, in an effort to facilitate the timing requirements associated with UPI's needs, we've broken it down into several more meetings so that we could continue the ball rolling and ultimately achieve a successful financing for the project. So if we approve these tonight, we will be bringing back the next steps to you in May, both the first and second meeting, and then also the final step, hopefully at the late June meeting. And then if all goes well, we will be closing in July. That's our anticipation. Staff, bond counsel, as well as the developers team are available and in attendance tonight. They can be elevated at any time if you guys have questions, and we're happy to follow through with that. That concludes my report. Mayor Kelly, if you'd like to proceed with the public testimony, please do.
Yes, the floor, excuse me, there was a question from Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you. Can you briefly explain why the NPV went down?
I can actually. When we looked at NPV before, we were looking at a straight refunding. So we were just looking at refunding the 2005 issue. So of course that's going to show a great NPV savings, and the numbers currently are still around 15%. When you look at the restructuring to include new money being taken out, it's like refinancing and taking additional funds out for your home. It reduces that savings. So it adds to the burden that has to carry. So it lowers it. I can't remember the last number we got, but it's still pretty well in excess of 3%. So it's still a good deal.
I get it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
The floor is now open to testimony from members of the public. At this time, all interested persons or taxpayers may testify orally or provide something in writing for or against the establishment of the district, the extent of the district, the furnishing of specified types of public facilities to serve the district, the proposed rate and method of apportionment of the special tax, and the incurrence of bonded debt. Do we have anyone present who wishes to offer testimony? It appears not. Can the clerk confirm that?
I don't see anyone raising their hand or in attendance that I know of. We gotta, if we're gonna close the public hearing, we'll have to take a vote.
I understand, but I just wanted to confirm no one was present.
Thank you.
So we do need a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Council members?
So moved.
Motion to close the public hearing.
We have a motion and a second. Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 to close the public hearing.
And now let me confirm, Madam Clerk, does a majority protest exist against the establishment of the district, against the extent of the district, against the furnishing of a specified type or types of public facilities to serve the district, or against levying a specified special tax within the district?
No written protests have been received from the landowners within the district. Therefore, a majority protest does not exist.
Then at this time, because a majority protest does not exist, it is appropriate for the council to consider the two resolutions set forth on your agenda under item C as 1 and 2. The first resolution number 2021-10 to form the district, and the second resolution number 2021-11 to declare the necessity to incur bonded indebtedness within the district. Is there someone who would like to move the first of those motions?
So moved.
And thank you. Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And would someone like to move resolution number 2021-11?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you so much to staff and all others who've helped to prepare this. We'll look forward to working through all the steps.
Thank you.
Which brings us to council member reports and requests for action. It is Mayor Pro Tem Harnick's turn to be first.
Thank you, Mayor. It's Earth Day. It's important. I hope everybody's doing their best to take care of our gifts so we can give it again. Earth is one of those things we like to re-gift. I've had lots of meetings. We went through a lot of different issues with Riverside County Transportation Commission, Southern California Association of Governments, and that's what I have. It's time for legislation up in Sacramento, so we're going over a lot of it in both of those entities. So we're paying attention.
Councilmember Nestandi.
I don't have anything for this meeting to bring up. So thank you very much, though, for giving me the opportunity.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
I would love to report for the Children's Discovery Museum. It was a lovely meeting, as very timely with what we were talking about in terms of reopening and starting to have events. They are already booking different events at their facility. So I think it's very timely to start looking forward. And the program the project to reopen is looking for a 2022 timeline. And I was very, very impressed with the idea of all of the things that can be going on in the meantime to still maintain activity and connection with the community, and very touched by the idea of starting a program for young philanthropists. So even as we're asking the community to do things to support the museum, even in small increments, to incentivize having kids give, and not necessarily money, but to allow kids to participate in food drives or hygiene drives for the underprivileged. So there's a lot of great work that's happening.
Thank you. Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the meetings I was assigned to. I will share very briefly that at the CVAG Homelessness Committee, we were presented with latest results, and they're very positive. I know we hear discouraging news about homelessness throughout the state, but here in the Coachella Valley, the CV200 program has actually been very successful, and there's some wonderful success stories. I'm happy to report on that. And with regard to Desert Community Energy, we had our board meeting, and we got the annualized report from Palm Springs, and I can't let it go with Earth Day being today, that their program in Palm Springs alone has reduced the carbon footprint by 93,000 metric tons, which is equivalent to taking over 20,000 cars off the street. So, Mayor, you said, what can we do as individuals or as an individual community to help our planet? I think Palm Springs sets a good example. As far as the other committees, no reportable action and no request for action. Thank you.
Thank you. I do encourage folks to go to Sunline's Facebook site and take in the video of this morning's session. Mr. Hellman, anything to report from our city manager?
Not tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
You're most welcome. There being no other business, we'll adjourn the meeting and look forward to seeing everyone bright and early tomorrow to discuss our capital improvement projects. Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good night, everyone. Happy
Stay
Earth Day.
healthy. Get your shots, everyone. Get your shots so we can stay open.
Meeting adjourned, 6:33 p.m.